Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Your Mark on the World show. I'm your host, Devin Thorpe, and we're producing this episode for GoodCrowd.info. Our guest today is Patrick O'Neill, the CEO and founder of Amp Your Good. Patrick, thank you very much for joining us.
Devin, delighted to be here.
Well, it's our pleasure to have you, of course. Now, Patrick, tell us what Amp Your Good is. This is really amazing stuff. I love it.
Well, Amp Your Good has a platform that most people would be familiar with in relating it to crowdfunding. And our platform is used by organizations to raise goods that nonprofit organizations need, rather than money, which is what a crowdfunding platform is designed to do. And so our platform hosts food drives and other kinds of drives that people are used to donating goods to. But we host those drives at our platform, and all of the donation activity occurs online. People, in the context of a food drive, would come to their school's drive, their company's drive on our platform, and again, instead of making a monetary donation, they actually pick the food that they want to donate and purchase it at our site. And when a drive is over, we'll deliver all that food directly to the food pantry or the soup kitchen or the shelter that's being supported by the drive.
Now, Patrick, is Amp Your Good able to create a tax-deductible donation for those purchases?
Yeah, that's a great question, Devin, and the answer is yes. When we developed the platform, we really developed it with a holistic perspective in that there's really three different parties that our platform is connecting. We're enabling somebody who's going to organize a drive to do so without spending as much time, because they don't have to worry about handling the goods to deliver them to the nonprofit. And we have some other tools that make the job of a drive organizer easier to do. From a donor perspective, we make it as easy to donate food or other goods as it is to donate money. And from a nonprofit organization's perspective, we deliver all the goods to them, and we take care of supplying a tax receipt for what people donate through our platform via an email. So people get the tax receipt that way. That relieves the burden off of the nonprofit organization to do the same thing.
That's magnificent. It's just such an ingenious system. So typically when a nonprofit is running a program through your site, are they in parallel gathering goods in a traditional way, or are they doing this entirely on your platform?
Well, it's really a mix. Traditionally run drives are something that's been done since people have been doing drives, centuries and centuries long. We have some organizations that we work with that will exclusively run a drive on our system. We have others that will do it in conjunction with a physical collection drive, giving their community a choice to either purchase things online through our platform or donating the way that they habitually have done.
Now, what kinds of drives besides food are you able to do on your site today?
Well, so the way we constructed the platform was really to be able to facilitate any kinds of goods that people are used to donating to charities. When we launched the platform in June of last year, we were able to host food drives and drives that would support animal shelters, which principally means pet food and cleaning supplies, things of that nature. Since then, we've added a couple of other kinds of drives. The one that we've been really excited about are building materials. We have a partnership with Habitat for Humanity, and we just completed a pilot program where they were using our platform to raise the building materials needed for an upcoming project. So people could donate 2x4s.
So someone could go on and buy a 2x4 for a house.
Exactly, and in their perspective, and this is certainly something that we share, is that one of the often used terms in the nonprofit world is donor impact. Today, people want to know, if I'm participating, if I'm supporting a charitable organization, what impact am I personally having? And sometimes that can get a little fuzzy with monetary donations, but it's not really fuzzy at all when you're donating something. Whether that's a sandwich to help feed somebody, a 2x4 that's going to be used to help make a home for someone, and all the other kinds of goods that people are used to donating.
Yeah, that's an amazing insight. This really is almost the next phase of crowdfunding, where that accountability gets you right down to the sandwich, right down to the 2x4, right down to that granular level where you know exactly where your money went because you placed it there exactly on that thing. Still getting the tax deduction, still having impact, but you know your money is not being spent on something you didn't approve of. Really a radical rethinking, reimagining of philanthropy. It's really exciting. How did you come up with this idea?
Well, I think it really stems from a couple of things. It's so we're well past the Great Recession that everybody remembers, but we're still in a bit of a two-track economy, and it's clear that the nonprofit sector, particularly those who are devoted to social services, they've been struggling to get the resources that they've needed to meet their missions. Whether you're talking about hunger in this country, certainly affordable housing. Hunger is really a proxy for many other things. If you can't afford food, you're probably having trouble affording lots of other things, from hygiene products to clothing, so on and so forth. And so what the platform represents is something that delivers some efficiencies that we first sort of remove the wasted donations that often get included with traditional drives. And so if we can turn one bad donation or well-intentioned but unusable donation into a usable donation, that's increasing the effective amount of good that's able to be done. So part of it was looking at this at kind of a macro level, that there is this imbalance between the amount of help that's needed and the amount of help that's available. And so if we can turn some of the help into better help, that will make a difference. The other was just really noticing, and I'm of an age, when I grew up, all the institutions that sort of underpinned our society were really trusted, whether that was higher education or government or faith-based organizations, the nonprofit sector. And our society's trust for those institutions have waned over the past couple of decades. And for the nonprofit sector, it kind of reduces down to that simple question of, what are you doing with my money? So we thought that if you had a way for people to donate goods, which is something that is still very popular. It takes more work than donating money, but people do it because they feel like they can understand their impact. If you can make it as easy for them to donate goods, maybe a couple of things would happen. You might get participation from people who might only donate goods, but they don't have the time to do it, or they're too far away from the organization that they want to help. And so our system is a way to pull those people into a drive to be able to support it and express the charitable intentions that they have. And likewise, there are people who may not help out to their full capacity. So maybe they're donating money, or maybe they're donating their time. But again, if you combine convenience with transparency, our idea was, would that result in more giving?
Right.
And I have one stat I can share with you that I think is really representative of all that thinking. The average food donation through our platform is roughly 4 bags of groceries. People are spending around $60 per donor, and if you think about what you might carry to a collection point for a food drive, it's really defined for most people with what they can conveniently carry. And so maybe that's a bag of groceries, or in the case of my kids, when their school is a food drive, it's what can fit in the top of the backpack after the books and the lunch are in there. So what we see is that people will donate a lot more if they don't have to carry all the things to a collection point.
Yeah, great insight. Listen, I want to ask you just a couple of questions before we go, because our time is running short. But if you have, you're doing incredible work, but I imagine there are days when it's frustrating and hard, and I suspect that you, like so many of us, look to a role model, an example, someone who you think of, well, if he did or if she did it, I could do it. Who's your role model? Who do you look to?
Well, I would say it's really two people, my parents, and there's a couple of connections with with that. My parents owned and operated a sort of a pub-style restaurant as a small business that I worked in and my brothers and sisters worked in. And certainly there were plenty of times when I was growing up, seeing how hard they worked, seeing some of the struggles that they dealt with. I recall fairly specifically the OPEC oil crisis of the 1970s, and that was tough. We were in a deep recession then, and to their credit, my parents not only did what they needed to do to keep their business going, but as a local food maker. They provided a lot of free meals to people who were in tough circumstances, and that's a lesson I drew from them also.
Wow, that is inspiring. What great people! What great people! You are, doing this hard work of entrepreneurship. There are a lot of things that are easier than this. I've done it. I've been on both sides of this. When you layer in the additional challenge to entrepreneurship of trying to create something that really does good in the world, I think it makes it hard. Why do you choose to do this?
Well, I think that it's something that I feel like I can make a difference with what we're doing here at AMP. You're right. Social entrepreneurship, a young company, getting that up off the ground, getting it running is very, very challenging. We've been fortunate to be off to a very nice start, but I think that the satisfaction of doing something that is making a difference, and we get lots and lots of positive feedback. I think one of the things that is sort of jet fuel for what we do is that positive feedback, and really having the privilege of working with a wide number of people and organizations that are looking to help others, and that's pretty inspirational.
You are just exactly right. I'm moved. I'm inspired by your thinking. Before we go, one last question. I wonder if you would just tell us give us one tip. You're successful. You're bringing this incredible thing together. What a great innovation. Really, it appears to me to be a unique innovation in the crowdfunding, crowdsourcing community, and really commend you for that. But can you give us one tip that would help us as your audience to have more impact, do more good in the world?
Sure. I think that we all have an opportunity every day to give back in one form or another. I happen to be focused on a company and an organization that we're trying to grow for what we've been discussing here. But I think that if each of us can wake up in the morning and after we count our fingers and toes and make sure we're in good shape, just be mindful that whether it's something as simple as the proverbial helping an elderly person across the street, just be mindful of what each of us can do to help somebody, and that can be very small scale. It can be something more ambitious. But I think if we can be mindful of that collectively, that makes a big difference.
Oh boy, I hear that. Well, I really appreciate you taking the time to be with us, Patrick, today. Before you go, please tell us how people can connect with you, how they can learn more about AMP Your Good, et cetera, et cetera. Help us help the people who need what you're doing.
Sure. Well, there's a couple of ways to contact us. On Twitter, it's at ampyourgood. Our website is ampyourgood.com. Feel free to send me an email address. It's patrick.o'neill@ampyourgood.com. And for those who are interested in goods-based giving, we'd love to talk to you.
Fantastic. Well, Patrick, thank you very much for joining us today. We wish you every success.
Thanks very much for having me, Devin. It's been a pleasure.
All righty. Let's do some good.